Hello my friends! I meet you today for the video of my 10 favorite coloring books. It's a tag that circulates on YouTube from Canada to France and I've been tagged by Colorfilla. If I had shot this video a year ago, I could only have shown books by Johanna Basford because I was coloring exclusively in her books. But this year, my good resolution was to open myself to other illustrators, and that's why I'm going to be able to present you also books from other illustrators, which are in my top 10. In 10th position, I choose Thomas Kincaid, Disney coloring book. This book is really so beautiful. On the other hand, it impresses me a little bit because there are a lot of details to color. So I started a picture in it, but I'll confess, I gave up before the end. Probably I'll take it again one day because it's a little silly to stop here. I still did most of the work. So here is the book that is at number 10 in my top 10. The colors are really superb, there are plays of light. I really want to learn by following the paintings by Thomas Kincaid. In number 9, I choose Wild Savannah by Millie Marotta. I found it second-hand on Facebook Marketplace. Most of the pages are completely intact. Millie Marotta draws animals extremely precisely. The shapes are really beautiful. And her specialty is drawing intricate patterns on her illustrations. So it may sound difficult at first, but I think there is really a way to do pretty things in her books. As soon as I'll get started, I'll give you little tutorials. I can't wait to begin. As number 8, I choose Rita Berman, Die Welt unter der Lupe zu Wasser. It's also a book that I have just bought. I'll make a whole video very soon because I've enlarged a lot my collection of coloring books lately. You'll see some in this video, but not all. This one is by Rita Berman. I really love her universe. The cover is already colored. Here, I colored the small octopus. I'll post the complete tutorial on my channel. I wanted to color this page easily and quickly, so in one afternoon it was complete. What's funny about this book is that you have the flap here, which allows you to see the picture which is here on the back, but you can also choose to show your page number 1 instead. So this is how you can have your own coloring on the cover of the book. I really like these illustrations, which are really full of poetry, and especially with Rita Berman, what I love is her way of coloring, which is really filled with joy, splashes of color. That's wonderful. Besides, I was totally inspired by her way of coloring to make this whale here. I zoom in a little bit. You can see here I really added small spots of colors here and there to find the style of Rita Berman. On the swirl, I also made a gradient with color spots in the middle, and frankly, I really enjoyed the journey. So I will have a lot of fun with the world under the glass underwater. In number 7, yes, I cannot ignore Johanna Basford. She remains my favorite illustrator. Lost Ocean is the very first book I bought from Johanna Basford. It's the book that made me enter into the passion of coloring for adults. I colored a few pages in it. This one is my very first coloring page. I didn't even think about using a circular template to make the bubbles. I drew them freehand. Here I followed a tutorial from Olivier Odoran, about which I've already told you a lot. I really love following tutorials. I find it really relaxing. We don't take the lead, we just take the pencil that we're told to take and we apply the color on the page. Here, this is one of my eternal work in progress. It's been a really long time since I started it, like 2 years ago. I love this page, but there are so many tiny details that I got a little discouraged before the end. Certainly one day I'll take it back because I really love it a lot. I already have plans for the bottom and for the seaweed. I started it with Derwent Inkpens, so I will most likely finish it with these pencils. This is a page that you know well, since I made a tutorial showing all the steps of this page. This one is also one of my very first coloring pages. I only had the Derwent Inkpens at that time, so we can see that I left a lot of traces. I was not at all experienced with these pencils, but I still like the final result. I think that each page that we color represents a step of our evolution in coloring and our progress. And so I think we can always be proud of our coloring pages, even if there are things that are less well done or even sometimes there are things that are a bit missed. I think we can always be proud because each page represents a step in our progress and, above all, it represents all the pleasure we've taken coloring it. In number 6, I stay with Johanna Basford. I choose Enchanted Forest Artist Edition. You see, it's the same pictures as in the book, but the paper is really very thick. It's not watercolor paper because it's not grained. It is very smooth, so we can easily draw with pencils on it. It is at least 300 grams paper, so you can use watercolors, paint, watercolor pencils. You can really have fun with this book. The pages are detachable, so if you like to display your coloring pages on the wall, you can do this without damaging the book. I really like this edition. There are 20 posters to frame. It's the most beautiful drawings of Enchanted Forest. Here it's a page we can color with a galaxy sky behind. It will be beautiful. We could use watercolors, for example. I think this fox is totally gorgeous. Here is the page that I colored with Derwent Inkpens. There was a white space here, so I drew the tree on the side. And I made a little video about how to draw a tree, so you can follow very easily how to draw a tree with Derwent Inkpens. I also made a tutorial about how to make blurry leaves in the background to give an impression of depth. You have each steps of this coloring on my channel if you're interested. The videos are in the playlist Enchanted Forest. In number 5, we have World of Flowers. This is a book with wonderful illustrations. I started this page with my friend Suzanne Berry. There are a lot of gorgeous pages. This one, for example, which really call for poetry and travel. I love this page. The glass bubble here is really very pretty. Here, it's also a very poetic page. Here, I added the fairy inside the flower wreath. This one is a page I colored for a coloring competition hosted by Johanna Basford. Here, I followed a tutorial by Chris Cheng for the flowers, and I added the nest of marsupilami with polychromos pencils, the 5 little marsupilami, and the funny bird that we see in these comics. I like to add little personal touch to my coloring pages. This page is so beautiful. I have a project about this one in my head. One day I'll find the time to do it. This is the fairy house coloring. It's the most appreciated video on my YouTube channel. A lot of people follow this color along. I also colored this page for a Johanna Basford coloring competition, so I had very much fun. It was not a tutorial basically. I colored it in my own way and I explained each of the steps on the video. I used soft pastels, Prismacolor, Polychromos, Derwent ink pens and also some Posca. Here is a page fully inspired by a coloring by Olivier Odoran. Here, at the very end, you have a gigantic page for people who are very patient. You see, it's a double-sided A3 page with a beautiful garden, the kind of garden where everyone dreams of living. Here, I also really like the universe with the little lighted hut there. There is a whole universe to create around this double page. I would really like to find the time to color it one day. My number 4 is Ivy and the Inky Butterfly. This is my favorite book by Johanna Basford. I really love the way we combine coloring and a story being told. This is the book that I've colored the most, between 15 and 20 pages, I would say. And we really have different levels of my coloring learning through the pages of this book. Here, it's a page that I colored when I started out. Here too, I colored it when I was a beginner. I followed a tutorial by Jazz Funk on YouTube. I made this one year ago, last summer. I can still see myself in the garden with my little kitten, Plume. Here I followed a tutorial by Chris Cheng. This one, I made it for a Johanna Basford coloring competition 2 years ago. It was in 2018, and it makes me really happy to see the evolution of my coloring techniques over 2 years. What is really great about coloring is that you never stop progressing. There will always be colorists much more talented than you, who will post pages where you're going to say, "Wow, but how did they do that?" And so you'll try to tend towards this way of coloring. And by doing that, you'll progress yourself in your techniques. Here it was my first night sky experiment. I really enjoyed doing that, and I used the same technique to make the galaxy sky here, that I presented to you as a tutorial on my channel. Here I took inspiration in a coloring page by Black Canary, who really does extraordinary things, who recently started to share her techniques on video. So obviously I hastened to watch her videos to try to reproduce her way of coloring. And that's how I made these 3 little patterns here, using her techniques. It was truly a wonderful moment. I can't wait to continue the page. So, in number 3, she's really an illustrator which climbed very quickly in my top 10. I love her illustrations. It's Aepol, a Korean illustrator. It's truly a world imbued with poetry and all the imagination of childhood. I gave you a complete review of volume 2 on another video. Here it's volume 1. I really love the universe. See here, for example. We have the title, it's called Let's Go on Vacation. We have a book with the beach in it. The escape here with the sky. I really love her universe. It's so poetic. Here too, the world inside of a book. Each painting has a title that takes you even further into the author's imagination. I started this page, but it's very long. It's also a tutorial by Christian, so I do it little by little. My number 2 is also a book by Apple, the last one that came out, Moments Wholly for Yourself. This title is really beautiful for a coloring book. I posted a flip through of this book so you can see all the pages. We learn here that the little dog is called Rudolph. The squirrel doesn't have a name though. She calls him Chipmunk. We really stay in the same world full of poetry, nostalgia, simple joys too. For example, the simple happiness of sitting on the porch. In this book, in addition to a title, there is a small text. Here, for example, it's written, "When there are obstacles that I cannot overcome on my own, I am grateful for you already being present and showing me a warm smile." We have a lot of images about how we escape when we read a book, and since my second patient is reading, all the images with the books really make me dream too. Here this image is called Door to the World Inside a Book, and the little text here says this: "Turning the first page of an unread book is always exciting as venturing into a new world." This page is really one of the first pages that I want to color in this book. This one, I like it too. The Tree of Wisdom blossoms. If there were a tree that sprouts wisdom, what would it look like? Wouldn't there be books hanging like fruit? At the end of the book, we have much thicker paper to be able to use water media on some pictures. Here, there is one that I particularly like. This image is called Me Through Your Eyes. How will I look through your eyes? I want you to remember me as a face that's always smiling. So much from number 2. Now is the time for you to find out my number 1, my favorite of all coloring books. In reality, it is a number 1 like no other, because it's a number 1 which is not yet released. This is Johanna Basford's next book, which is scheduled for 2021. And seeing the sketches and draft that she has already posted on Instagram or Facebook, I know this book will be the most beautiful book of all time. I can already show you some of the pictures that Johanna Basford shared about this book. The book is a journey around the world through different cultures. It's filled with poetry and escape, and I already see the dozens of different ways to color each page. This book really promises wonders. It doesn't have a title yet, it hasn't been released yet, but I choose it as my favorite number 1 book of my 10 favorite coloring books. Thank you very much to you for making this little trip with me through my favorite books. It's my turn to tag someone, and I choose to tag Elena Moskaleva from the channel Coloring with Alena. I've followed a lot of her tutorials. She's posting a lot of color alongs on her channel, and I follow her on Patreon too to support her art. Alena, I'm very happy to have met you, and if you have the time and the inclination, well, you can take your turn to make your video of the tag your 10 favorite coloring books. I can't wait to see your video. Thank you very much everyone, have a nice day and have fun with your colored pencils. See you soon!